Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is January 22nd. So, I did watch a lot of the first day of the trial, the Senate trial yesterday. And it was actually very interesting the way it was handled. Okay, so the short story is the Democrats put a bunch of motions on the floor. They wanted this and they wanted that. And the Republicans said no to all of it. Well, they didn't really say no. They tabled it, which as far as I can understand means that they're just going to get to it later. They don't want to talk about it now, and what the Democrats were wanting to get on record was, are you going to let us have documents from the White House, from the Department of Justice? Is John Bolton going to testify? We want that Duffy guy from OMB to testify. So it was that kind of back and forth stuff. And so there was no flat out no's. There was just kind of, we'll get to it at another time because Mitch McConnell doesn't want to deal with that like right now. So that's how that went. Now, what the Democrats did, and it was very, very clever, as they were arguing these motions, right, they were actually telling the narrative of the story. So, it wasn't like, we want this, let's vote. It was like, we want this, and this is why we want this. And they were literally, with every motion, they were telling more and more of the narrative of what had gone on and why certain documents or certain witnesses were needed. And of course, to some degree, there is knowledge of what those witnesses would say or those documents say, because some of them have got, out into the public, right? Or, witness testimony kind of thing. So that it was actually really, really interesting the way they did it. And as most of you who watch me regularly may remember, my TV allows me to pause. So I can just freeze frame my television. I can go away for like an hour and a half and then come back. And so I do that specifically so every time they show a clip of Trump or the Republicans are saying something incredibly stupid, I just fast forward right past them until I get to something else I want to listen to. So that's probably how I actually have the stamina to to get through this, right? Because I'm not getting particularly stressed out. So again, like I said, it was actually really, really interesting the way they did it. Today, I understand they're starting with opening statements. And so again, that's going to be very interesting because it's going to be sort of this just a long flowing narrative. And frankly, in response to the narrative of yesterday, the Republicans have nothing to say. They didn't have a defense. They looked incredibly ill prepared. And they lied. I mean, it's just that simple. They were just telling falsehoods one after another. And Adam Schiff was absolutely brilliant at saying, just a housekeeping note. You said this and it's wrong. And we know it's wrong because blank, blank, blank. He was really, really good at calling them on the carpet for some of the things that they just knowingly lied about. And apparently it's like a really, really, really big deal. If you are a lawyer, when you spread those kind of falsehoods in front of a Supreme Court justice, apparently it's really frowned on. So these lawyers better be mindful about what they're saying before they actually find themselves and their law licenses in jeopardy. Okay, so that's enough of me kind of catching you up. Now, one more really cool thing I want to talk to you about, and I think we're going to throw a few cards on this. One of the things that I found out this morning when I went to my news feed is that the DC, so District of Columbia, Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against the Inauguration Committee and Trump businesses for in excess of $1 million. Apparently, they're almost trying to track, it was something like $3.6 million that the Trump businesses ended up making as a result of the inauguration celebrations. And some of them were like crazy, right? Like there was a room in the hotel that they rented out to the Trump inauguration committee for like $175,000 a day. And, you know, other hotels, other establishments were offering it for free. Other places, their prices were considerably less than that. But everything went through the Trump Hotel. And so there's definitely money that isn't accounted for and needs to be accounted. So again, remember, this is the kind of thing that I was talking about when it comes to when Trump leaves office. Okay, he is going to spend the rest of his life and the rest of his assets trying to defend himself against lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, or alternatively, he's just going to settle them, and that's going to end up, you know, burning through his assets also. But it's like these lawsuits that are going on behind the scenes, and they're going after the Trump family, and they're going after the Trump businesses, and they're going after the inauguration. Those are the kinds of things that, you know, they add up, right? And at some point, I suspect a little bit closer to the actual general election, you're going to see, I'm sure, a list of these kinds of lawsuits showing up in some sort of a political TV ad. And I would think if they don't, then somebody really missed the ball on that one. Okay. I have a couple of questions that so I'm going to throw some cards on that and just see how that is going to turn out. So we're looking at the lawsuit filed by the District of Columbia's Attorney General against the Trump Inauguration Committee and the Trump businesses. Come on down. I have a question. Okay, so how's that lawsuit going to go? What is that looking like? DCAG lawsuit trumps. DCAG lawsuit trumps, and DCAG lawsuit trumps. Okay. So this, excuse me, sorry. This is another one of those times where there is just a great deal of anxiety and stress connected to all the things that are being uncovered. Hang on. Sorry about that. I apologize. I must have a cold weather frog stuck in my throat. Although before I forget, thank you so much for all the people who are sending me lovely warm wishes. The last several days, the temperatures have moderated beautifully. We're sitting at -2, -3 degrees Celsius. So that's right around 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And in fact, right now, there's just a gentle snow actually falling outside my window. So it's out much warmer. And everything is all crispy and sparkly white, so it's very pretty out there. Okay, so a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. The Trumps are starting to figure out that, oh, you know what, wait a minute, we've got stuff coming at us from every single angle you can look at, and frankly, we're really not in a position of power here. And the Trumps, as a family, are actually starting to become very, very concerned that information about money and money dealings and assets is going to come out. And frankly, they've started to twig into the fact, maybe not Trump, because he's a little distracted, to say the least. But I think the rest of them have started to twig into the fact that, you know what, we are in serious trouble here. And they can go in front of TV cameras and they can go to rallies and they can talk a good talk. But behind the scenes, there is a lot of anxiety about exactly how harsh justice is going to come for them. And there's every indication that they are going to lose more than they win. This lawsuit does not look like it's going to be impeded in any significant way from going forward. And so the truths continue to come out as, just as they do, right? And there we have Donald Trump. And they're going to try their usual tricks and their usual kind of crazy lawyer wrangling nonsense. And ultimately what they're going to discover is that potentially more could come out than is already coming out. And so that is when you're going to see, I think, the Trumps trying to settle lawsuits, trying to stabilize the bad news that is perpetually out there and about them and about their companies. They're recognizing that they've got a significant change of fortune coming. And, when it comes to the Trump family, it really, really is starting to feel like, if it wasn't for bad luck, they would have no luck at all. But that's what happens when you're corrupt and justice comes for you. So more information coming out about their assets, and people are getting more and more riled. They don't know a lot about it because, the news cycle is so flooded with information. But enough gets out, and people are going to start adding up all of the lawsuits going on, and it's, it just simply doesn't look good. And frankly, long term, it's a very negative thing for the Trump family and the Trump family businesses, because once he is not under the protection of Bill Barr, you're going to see a lot of government agencies sort of kicking in and really, really moving forward with some of the things that, frankly, I think are getting dragged out a little bit right now, because it's better if they go after him without sort of that kind of Attorney General of the United States protection. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds. But like I said, this is just one of many, many. There's going to be a great number of lawsuits that are going to continue to get filed. And once they're out of office, you're going to see that those lawsuits start to get kind of a little bit aggressive. So keep that in mind, because sometimes, you have to be patient, but when you're patient, you end up getting the better reward, if you will. Okay, so interesting. I cut the deck and we've got both the Queen and the King of Wands. So that's telling us that there's some interesting communications coming down. There's going to be some, I suppose some of the takes, if you will, on how things are doing in the Senate. You're going to see, interesting conversations or interesting arguments being made. So, yeah, whenever possible, if you can, I know it's very wearying, and I know a lot of us are really fatigued with this. But at the very least, if you can keep abreast of the situations, you certainly, of course, don't need to follow every minute. But just stay mindful of what is happening, whether you're doing that by following some of your favorite shows or commentators or, whatever works. Okay. So I just got a couple of random questions here, and I think I'm just going to, answer them or try to answer them and see what the cards say. So the next question I got from a viewer, and I'm sorry, to all of my viewers who had sent in questions, I do not tend to retain your names. I apologize. My brain doesn't work that way. I focus on the question you're asking, and then I just kind of get distracted about who might be asking the question. Okay, so the first question I want to delve into is somebody wanted to know just flat out, listen, is Trump going to jail or not? And so let's take a look at that, and let's just ask ourselves, is Donald Trump going to go to jail for his activities, both before the presidency and during the presidency? Is Donald Trump going to end up in jail? Trump jail time, Trump jail time, Trump jail time. Okay, so what you have here is you have information coming to the fore, both in terms of communications and the law. So there's going to be more and more stuff coming out that is going to pertain to Trump. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on about emoluments, right? So there's going to be more digging into kind of where Trump and his companies get that money and how they have abused the position to really overcharge to a ridiculous degree whoever comes in contact with the Trump businesses that's come from the government, because that is money straight into their pocket. So there's going to be more and more coming out, and it's going to not be well received. It's going to be difficult for them to sort of spin their way out of. And remember, once Trump is no longer in office, he is not going to have the kind of bully pulpit that he has now. He is not going to have the access to the press the way he does now. And I can rest assured that once he is no longer president, there is going to be a real effort made to sort of minimize his exposure on the airwaves, because frankly, once he's gone, a significant part of the American people truly just honestly do not want to hear his voice or see his face for the foreseeable future. Yeah. Okay. The lawsuits are going to come sort of fast and furious, and there's going to be a lot of information coming out. Again, now you have 3 knights. You've got the Pentacles, the Wands, and Swords. So it's going to be interesting. But does he go to jail? I don't think so. There's going to be a lot that comes out. There's going to be a fair bit that actually kind of ruins his reputation. But I don't have any indicators here that he's actually going to end up in jail. And as much as there are some who would really like to see that, I think the reality is that in the greater scheme of the history of America, okay, I don't know that you want to start a tradition or set a precedent of previous presidents being jailed. You know, taking to court is one thing, lawsuits are one thing. But even though it's probably well-deserved, I just am not sure that that is something that the United States as a whole would really like to see go into effect, because it really does then start to smell a little bit like a banana republic. So there's that one. Next question. What kind of dirt, or do the Russians actually have dirt on Trump and on the Republicans that are keeping them kind of so obedient? Let's see. Russian compromat Republicans. Russian compromat Republicans. Russians compromat Republicans. That's a little bit of a tongue twister, I have to say. Okay, they have information on various members of the government. They have information on Donald Trump. They continue to get more information because security has been, first of all, breached, but even worse, they've gotten so cavalier about it that there are all kinds of little nuggets that are now secreted away somewhere for future use, because people have gotten very lazy and really not mindful about what they're saying and when they're saying it and what device they're saying it on. And so they continue to get more information. Some of it is, very, very interesting, and some of it is, ridiculous, but it continues to flow in. They know so much about deals and backroom dealings and logistics. They know things about sort of polling information that's already being generated for the next election. They have a lot of analytics that they're looking at, and so they know where and how they're going to target. So really what you have is you have a group of people, and I'm not saying for one second that the Democrats are as pure as the driven snow, but let's just focus on one group of corrupt people at a time here. So what you have is a bunch of people who are very, very busy trying to keep themselves protected for their own interest. And there is the amount of information that is being used against these people from behind the scenes. And it's not only coming, it is absolutely not only coming from Russia. There is pressure being applied from Saudi Arabia. There is pressure being applied from China. There's too much that is sort of out there in the world because of their own foolish behavior when it comes to security and keeping things kind of locked down the way they should be. So yeah, they have it. And I guess they have every intention of using it. In fact, frankly, they're kind of excited about using it. But for reasons that are a mystery right now, when they use it, it is not going to be well received. It's like they too are going to step over a line. So this is sort of an energy that I've been getting, and it continues to sort of ramp up. People, broadly speaking, in the United States are so exhausted by the aggressiveness, by the lies, by the manipulation, by the half-truths, by the lies of omission. They're done with it. They're done with the Trump antics. They're done with members of the Republican Party trying to mimic that behavior. I'm sure most of you saw the other day there was that thing with McSally out of Nevada, who was very sarcastic to that CNN reporter. So this morning I was watching, and they were talking to some of the people of Arizona, and the message was, grow up. Conduct yourself with some decorum. How can we even trust you? Clearly your mind is already made up. So really nothing you have to say is valid because you've already indicated how you're going to vote as a juror. So that kind of stuff is not being well received now. And that is only going to continue to become amplified and amplified as we move closer and closer to that, sort of that general election and the two nominees kind of going after each other. So, it's not going to go well for them. And in fact, there's going to be stuff that ends up coming out that is really, really detrimental. And whether it is detrimental to the Republicans as a whole, to Trump individually, it's not going to go well. I mean, it's really, really not. You have the Ace of Swords coming forward saying, you know what, enough. At the very bottom of this, we are going to agree to the facts. And that is going to play very well for the Democrats. And it's not really of their making, right? It is the push that is coming from foreign countries and the Trump inner circle that is actually creating, the situation that we're all in and what we're seeing. And so I don't think that it's going to serve them well. Okay, and really, really fast. Somebody wanted to know where the $35 million that was moved from the military going into the wall, or the construction of that vanity wall, how much of that, if any of it, made it into Trump's pockets? So I can tell you right now, the impression I'm getting energetically is that while it did not make it into his pockets or into the Trump pockets or the organizations directly, it is coming behind channels. So money that is being allocated for the construction, those companies that are getting and receiving those very, very lucrative bids, there is money being funneled back to the Trumps, very much like a mob, right? You pay back for the favors that you have received. So there's that. Let's just take a quick look and see what the cards are going to tell us about money, Trump, and the wall. Money, Trump, and the wall. Money, Trump, and the wall. Wow, did you see how completely confused I just got about that? Okay, there. Let's see what these three are. Okay, so more and more light is going to be shed on what's going on and that sort of situation. And again, some stuff is not going to come out until after he leaves office, but make no mistake, it is going to come out. So yeah, it looks like there's some stuff going on. They're at least sort of trying to pretend that they're mindful of the law and the legalities of taking kickbacks. But of course, they're not, because they really feel that they're above the law. So, yeah, and you know what? And those behaviors and that kind of stuff is actually going to be part of what contributes to the end. These unholy alliances and partnerships, whether in this country or outside of your country, not good. And again, Trump is so greedy and so sort of focused that he doesn't really care what the optics looks like. He is just determined to forge ahead. So I guess he's behaving like normal, right? No real thought to the consequences of what he does. He just wants to create a moment of kind of get me through this moment right now. Okay, so thank you very, very much. This was kind of a little bit of an eclectic read. I just wanted to catch up on some things. Thank you again for all of your support. I very much appreciate it. And until next time, take care, be well. And I'll see you really soon. Bye.